What is up, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the expected wide receiver one for the New York Jets, Jamison Crowder, and going over his potential fantasy outlook for 2020. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one, and let's get into it. Now, it seems to be the common decision amongst advice that's being given right now that Jamison Crowder is a value where he's going. We look at where he finished last year, and he's being drafted well below where he finished. Likely going to see a high target volume again. So what's not to like? Well, we'll get into that in a second. But finishing last year with 78 receptions, 833 receiving yards, and 6 total touchdowns. Good enough for nearly 200 fantasy points, put him at 26th, so just outside wide receiver 2 range, finishing with 12.4 fantasy points per game at 35th best at the position. When we look at his game script, this is where it starts to get a little ugly. Pretty much finishing as a wide receiver 1 or a guy that you really did not want to start that week. So when looking at this game log, it definitely increases the appeal of, and I know this is cliche now, but this increases the appeal of a guy like this in best ball, because getting a guy this late that could potentially give you 5-6 weeks of wide receiver 1 production is something that you want in a best ball league. But from a redraft perspective, boy, do I not like looking at this outlook for a receiver. So being able to have multiple games where you have 20 points, and then multiple stretches in a row where you can barely even eclipse 5 points, that's just nasty. And playing for a team that we're not expecting there to be, I mean, that efficiency has to go up, right? Maybe Adam Gase gets fired after week 4, and the offense has a bit more freedom to experiment a bit more. Obviously, we're not expecting Sam Darnold to have mononucleosis again, so hopefully he has a better 2020 than he did in 2019. But we also have the addition of Rashad Perriman and Denzel Mims in the draft, so will the target share that Jamison Crowder saw last year continue? Also, Chris Herndon hopefully can stay healthy and actually do something this year. So I don't really see the upside to drafting Jamison Crowder. There's plenty of other receivers being drafted around him that I would much rather have. I mean, I'm leaving this game log on here for long enough to really just sell why I wouldn't want Jamison Crowder in a redraft league, because last year was pretty much optimal for his production when you consider there weren't really any other receivers on that team. Quincy Enunwa gets hurt in the first week. They didn't have Denzel Mims or Rashad Perriman. Robbie Anderson is gone now, but he wasn't really doing much last year either. And I mean, yeah, you might expect to continue to see a high target volume for Rashad Perriman, but what does that actually mean? What does he actually do with his targets? He finished last year with 122 targets and had a 24.7 target share in New York. So are we expecting him to maintain a quarter of the targets again with Rashad Perriman and Denzel Mims coming to town? Probably not. Finished with 3 to 52 yards after the catch, which is decent. Yards per reception incredibly low at 10.7. That was 84th in the NFL. He faced one of the league's worst target quality ratings of 4.5. Lots of short underneath passes, things that don't actually turn into much. I mean, basically, Jamison Crowder is the receiver that would be used in many articles in years past, when there were still curmudgeon analysts that were upset that we were switching from standard leagues to PPR leagues. Like, Jamison Crowder is the quintessential example of why PPR can actually be perceived as stupid, because why would Jamison Crowder be valuable at all if not for the ridiculous amount of receptions that he got? I mean, we'll jump back to the game logs here. You look at week 1, he had 14 receptions. Pretty much any game that he finished as a decent fantasy producer, he had a high amount of receptions, even though he barely did anything with them. You look at his yards per target, only eclipsing 10 yards per target twice in the entire year. So one of those guys that can have a very low yardage output, but still have plenty of targets and receptions to give him a decent fantasy floor. So again, not someone that you're very excited about outside of maybe getting him really late in the best ball league. Average target distance of only 8 last year, 91st in the NFL, and 70th in fantasy points per target. So not doing much with the targets that he got. Obviously, some of that had to do with the low accuracy and low quality of his targets. But I mean, we've seen Jamison Crowder do this year in and year out. He's never been a guy that has carried an incredibly high upside. Has never really shown that he can do more with his target. So there's not really any reason to expect him to do any more than he did in 2019, especially not with increased target competition now with guys like Perriman and Mims. So we're projecting him to have a bit of a target decrease without really much efficiency increase. So that would put him at about 77 receptions, 844 receiving yards, and we have him at about 5 touchdowns. So that puts him at about 193.5 fantasy points, but I don't really think his ceiling is much higher than that, and his floor is a lot lower. So his upside ranking is incredibly low. I just don't get the thrill. Maybe someone else can try to sell him to me, but overall, I would rather take a shot at Mims in the last pick of my draft than to have to spend like a ninth or 10th round pick on Jamison Crowder, which is where he's going right now. If he ends up falling a few more rounds, maybe I can see the appeal, but right now there's just way too many guys being drafted around him that I would rather take, that I feel actually carry upside. And once I get beyond the first 5 rounds, I'm pretty much just shooting mostly for upside. So it doesn't make sense for me to take a stab at a guy like Jamison Crowder when I already know what he's going to do for me. It's going to be someone that I'm really never going to feel comfortable starting. And if I end up having to start him, praying that he has one of his weeks where he actually does something with the targets that he gets. So that's my take on Jamison Crowder. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one, and we will see you in the next video.